Apotheosis Chapter 36. There were a total of 4 people beside Luo Zheng. One of them was the tower-like brawny man holding a large sword. Unexpectedly, this tower-like brawny man not only had a strong body and boundless strength, but also a powerful soul. There were indeed many outstanding disciples in the Blue Cloud sect. Continuing forward, they arrived at the Earth Hall. In this hall, purple light could be seen everywhere. Of the 5 people who entered the hall, except for Luo Zheng, the other 4 people's complexions were not very good. One person's complexion suddenly became deathly pale. It was a descendant of a landowning household. Obviously, it was difficult for him to resist the pressure of Xingtian intent. That descendant of a landowning household took out a dark gray pill from his pocket and swallowed it. When that person opened his eyes again, his eyes were emitting a pale golden light. Luo Zheng immediately understood that the pill should be able to strengthen his soul and help him resist the pressure of Xingtian intent. Descendant of a landowning household was really rich. Luo Zheng silently praised in his heart. If he was a commoner, how could he have the help of such a pill? The 5 people stopped in the hall. Now, they could all choose from Earth-class techniques. In the eastern region, techniques were divided into 4 ranks: Heaven, Earth, Black, and Yellow. Among them, Yellow-class techniques were the most common. There were countless of them, and their prices were naturally the cheapest. Some martial arts centers could learn them. As for Black-class techniques, they were slightly rarer. Generally, they were passed down by small families. For example, the red sandalwood fist, practiced by Luo Zheng, was a Black-class technique. After all, the Luo family was not a rich and powerful family. In a large family, the red sandalwood fist was already very rare. Generally, it would not be easily passed down to others. Therefore, even ordinary descendant of a branch family did not have the qualifications to practice it. As for Earth-class techniques, they were even more precious. For example, the descendant of a landowning household often practiced Earth-class techniques. In this hall of Earth-class techniques, there was only one shelf. It had to be said that the Blue Cloud sect had a deep foundation. Just the Earth-class techniques alone were several hundred. He believed that it would not be difficult to find one that was suitable for him to practice. Luo Zheng stood in front of the cabinet and glanced at it. He began to ponder in his heart. What kind of cultivation method should he practice? Red sandalwood fist was good, but after entering the Blue Cloud sect, it wasn't enough. It couldn't fully display Luo Zheng's strength, and it would be at a disadvantage if it encountered people who used high-level techniques. After pondering for a while, Luo Zheng still decided to continue forward. Although the purple light in the hall was powerful, it was still inferior to Qinglong's dragon intent. The two were not comparable at all. Furthermore, Luo Zheng's soul had been burned by the black flames in his body. The strength of his soul was far stronger than an ordinary person's. Therefore, he needed to choose a stronger cultivation method for himself. When Luo Zheng continued to walk forward, the 4 people all looked at him in surprise. You don't want to live anymore. The heaven-class cultivation technique Hall's heaven punishing will is extremely dense. You won't be able to endure it, warned the large man. In the face of the kind reminder, Luo Zheng nodded and said, I know, but I don't want to try. If he wants to throw away his life, then let him go. I've seen too many people who don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. It's said that the heaven-class cultivation technique Hall's heaven punishing will is like a real substance that can invisibly kill people. Before tempering your soul, only death awaits you if you enter, the landowning household child sneered. Hearing the landowning household child's sarcasm, Luo Zheng smiled faintly. He was too lazy to argue and walked into the next hall. Heaven-class hall. The scale of this hall was much smaller than the previous halls. Every heaven-class cultivation technique was extremely rare. Even within the landowning household, it was classified as a secret that wasn't passed on. In the heaven-class hall, there was only one bookcase. Compared to the previous tall and extravagant bookcases, this bookcase was very short and shabby. The bookcase was made of wood and had many holes eaten by insects. After Luo Zheng stepped into this hall, he felt that the heaven punishing will seemed to have completely changed. The purple light had already disappeared, replaced by purple shadows. The silhouette of the shadows outlined the image of an exotic beast. Probably sensing that someone had stepped into the heaven-class cultivation technique hall, the shadows that were slowly drifting in the hall rushed towards Luo Zheng one by one. Those purple shadows were illusory and naturally wouldn't cause any harm to Luo Zheng's body. But when those shadows rushed into Luo Zheng's body, he discovered that they were directly attacking his soul. Stabbing pain came from the depths of Luo Zheng's mind. This kind of pain might be fatal to others. But the strength of Luo Zheng's soul was far stronger than the average person's. Even so, he still felt that he was suffering. Every time those illusory shadows rushed over, it was like an all-piercing into his mind, causing intense pain. This kind of pain had nothing to do with the physical body, but came from the spiritual plane. Unable to avoid it, Luo Zheng could only take it all in. Every time those purple shadows attacked Luo Zheng, his soul couldn't help but tremble. The first time was fine, but the second time, the third time, the fourth time. After too many times, Luo Zheng was somewhat unable to bear it. Things on the spiritual plane were often mysterious and abstruse. Luo Zheng had never heard of spiritual attacks, so naturally, he couldn't fight back. Luo Zheng pressed his teeth, his eyes bloodshot. At this moment, a trace of the thought of giving up appeared in Luo Zheng's mind. He absolutely couldn't give up like this. Luo Zheng had already endured inhuman spiritual torture once. At that time, he had been constantly torn apart, broken, and repaired by the pressure of Qinglong's will. The pain he had suffered then was 1,000 times, 10,000 times worse than what he was experiencing now. What's this little bit of pain? Just treat it as a kind of tempering for my soul. Luo Zheng shook his head and forced himself to be spirited. Step by step, he walked into the heaven-level method hall. Just as Luo Zheng was enduring the attacks of those illusory shadows and walking towards the small wooden cabinet, he saw that there was actually a passage behind the heaven-level method hall. There's another passage. Could it be that the heaven-level method hall isn't the best? A trace of doubt flashed through Luo Zheng's mind. Ever since he was a child, Luo Zheng had only heard that methods were divided into 4 ranks: heaven, earth, black, and yellow. The heaven level was the peak, but he had never heard of a method stronger than the heaven level method. His mind moved. Should he go in and give it a try? Luo Zheng's gaze swept over the cabinets. He was a little hesitant. The temptation of a heaven-class cultivation method was already too great for him. If it was in the past, let alone a heaven-class cultivation method, even an earth-class cultivation method would make him laugh his head off. After hesitating for a while, Luo Zheng still couldn't suppress the curiosity in his heart. Others simply didn't have the opportunity to enter the heaven-level method hall. Since he had this opportunity, why not give it a try? Thinking of this, Luo Zheng gave up the opportunity to choose a heaven-level method hall and continued to walk forward. This passage wasn't wide, and the decoration was very poor. The corridor's floor and walls had already decayed. When Luo Zheng crossed the corridor, he suddenly felt a burst of relief. The pressure of the Xingtian intent had actually disappeared. With a belly full of doubts, Luo Zheng continued to walk forward. Finally, he found that he had entered a stone room. This stone room was circular and the space wasn't large. In the center of this stone room, there was actually a pure black tombstone. Luo Zheng immediately realized that this was actually a cemetery. The moment Luo Zheng understood, a demonic beast condensed from purple light rushed out of the tombstone. This demonic beast was very similar to the purple shadows in the heaven-level method hall. In contrast, this demonic beast was much more realistic. Its entire body was purple and lifelike. Its eyes even emitted a hateful gaze. I understand. This cemetery should be the tomb of the Xingtian beast. Then, this demonic beast should be the soul body of the Xingtian beast. This Xingtian beast is actually so tenacious. After so many years, its will can still exist in this space and emit such a powerful Xingtian intent. I wonder who it was that killed this Xingtian beast. Luo Zheng secretly exclaimed. At the same time, his face revealed vigilance. This Xingtian beast's remnant soul aura was much stronger than those phantoms. The pressure it gave Luo Zheng was also much stronger. Just a glance from this soul body made him feel as if someone was smashing his head with a hammer. Extreme danger. If this soul source really pounced on him, his soul would probably be instantly torn apart and he would become a soulless idiot. After realizing the danger ahead, Luo Zheng carefully retreated. He was afraid that he would disturb the soul source of the Xingtian beast and arouse its ferocious nature. But when he looked back, a bitter smile suddenly appeared on his face. In the passage behind him, the purple phantoms were densely stacked together, tightly blocking the passage. This blue cloud sect is too sinister. I'm just choosing a cultivation method. Is there a need to create such a dangerous trap for me to step into? Luo Zheng couldn't help cursing in his heart. Luo Zheng didn't know that in the blue cloud sect, very few people could enter the heaven-level method hall. The strength of one's soul wasn't directly related to one's strength. Even Xiantian's secret realm powerhouses wouldn't be able to step into the heaven-level method hall if their soul strength wasn't strong enough, let alone enter the tomb behind the hall. Luo Zheng had just taken 2 steps back when the phantoms in the passage behind him were like startled bats. They spread towards Luo Zheng. At the same time, the soul body of the Xingtian beast howled and pounced towards Luo Zheng. Shit. Luo Zheng couldn't care less at this moment. Choosing the lesser of 2 evils, he rushed towards the phantoms in the passage. Although the phantoms attacked Luo Zheng's soul, it was still better than being torn to pieces by the soul body behind him. But although Luo Zheng's speed was fast, the soul body was even faster. In the blink of an eye, it arrived behind Luo Zheng. Roar! The soul source let out a strange cry. It was only a few inches away from Luo Zheng. When Luo Zheng turned his head, he could see his own frightened appearance reflected in its dark eyes. At this critical moment, the giant furnace in his mind suddenly rotated slowly, and a deep dragon roar came from the depths of his mind. This is the roar of that Qinglong sculpture. As soon as the majestic dragon roar appeared, the purple shadows that were attacking Luo Zheng immediately scattered. It was as if they had met their natural nemesis, and they were afraid that they wouldn't be able to escape. The soul source also jumped away from Luo Zheng, as if its tail had been set on fire. It stared at Luo Zheng vigilantly, its dark eyes full of fear. It seemed to want to pounce on him again, but it was very afraid of that dragon roar. It kept rubbing its claws on the ground, and let out a deep roar. Seeing this scene, Luo Zheng's face showed a smile. He didn't expect that Qinglong's roar was their natural nemesis. Every time Luo Zheng took a step forward, the soul source took a step back. Finally, under Luo Zheng's pressure, the soul source jumped onto the tombstone. It opened its mouth and roared twice at Luo Zheng, and finally drilled into the black tombstone. Luo Zheng could hear that the roar was full of unwillingness. It was really dangerous just now. If the Qinglong sculpture in his mind hadn't suddenly made a sound, his soul would have been obliterated. Now that the danger was over, he smiled faintly and began to explore the stone room. When he came in, he noticed that there was also a cabinet in the round stone room. Luo Zheng walked forward and saw that there were 2 cultivation methods on the cabinet. There were only 2 cultivation methods. What kind of cultivation methods were these 2? He reached out and took the only cultivation method. This cultivation method looked very shabby, like an ordinary old book from an old bookstall. Moreover, it was covered in a thick layer of dust. In order to see the cover of this cultivation method clearly, Luo Zheng gently patted it a few times, brushing off the dust. Only then did he see 3 big words on the cover of the book.